Hey everybody, Guten Tag. It's Lori with the Catch a Pocket Podcast, and tonight, episode 32, Lacey Cruse. She is the County Commissioner for District 4. We talked via Zoom earlier in, I think it was early January when we did this, and we just had a really good discussion, and I was really pleased with it, and I hope you are too. Basically, Lacey is a talented musician, wonderful person, mother, smart, very willing to speak up for issues that she feels could help a larger swath of our county, our community. And she has the skills and talents to make the voters like me want to get behind it. So I give her the props, and thanks for bringing light to things. That's why I started this podcast, is to kind of get people used to listening to women speak on topics. I'm a woman. I want to be heard. It's hard to hear voices that you're not used to, like mine. And sometimes it makes you just want to turn off the podcast because it's not agreeing with you, because that's not in your ingrained sensibilities. I don't know what it is. It's women's voices, minority voices. Sometimes people are resistant to hear them because it's ingrained that certain other voices should be heard and certain different voices should not be heard. Anyways, you don't really realize your biases ingrained into you until something calls attention to it. So please know that I understand if my voice puts you off, or another woman or another minority, but try to listen anyway. It's important. So with that, episode 32, my guest, Lacey Cruse. Please enjoy. Alright, so I'm here with Lacey Cruse, the County Commissioner for District Number 4 in the County of Sedgwick, which is in Wichita. Wichita is in. So thanks for coming. I appreciate you for coming to the podcast via Zoom.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
What I'm kind of just wanting to go through your life. Were you born here in Wichita?
I was not. I was born in Parsons, Kansas, about 2 hours southeast of here, and I moved here in 2006 to finish my bachelor's degree at Wichita State.
Oh, awesome. And so what was your bachelor's in?
Communications. So I graduated from the Elliott School, and I received a Bachelor of Arts in Communications with an emphasis in electronic media. So I actually worked for a radio station, a couple of them here in town for a little bit, but mainly just a communications degree.
Okay. And those are really neat. You can kind of do a lot of things with those degrees, so that's neat. So when you were in Parsons growing up, was that all your elementary years and junior high school years and stuff?
You know, I was born there, and when I graduated high school in 2000, it seems like such a long time ago. Like it's been 20 years.
This year has been 20 years.
Yeah, so when I graduated from high school, I was ready to get out of Parsons.
Okay.
it was almost like an expectation that you had to leave.
Okay.
Because and I heard this on a podcast this weekend on NPR. It was like she was describing exactly what it was like to live in my small town, because if you stayed, and this is what, I can't remember the woman's name, but she said it was almost like you're okay with mediocrity. But now when I look back on Parsons, I really appreciate the childhood that I had. And I mean, it was tough, and I had a lot of issues with my parents and whatnot, but just the place and the atmosphere and how small it was.
Right.
So, but to get back to your original question, in 2000, I moved to Emporia State. I went there for 1 semester.
Okay.
I was a little homesick. I moved back to Parsons with my then boyfriend, who became my husband. I got pregnant. I moved back in January. I got pregnant, I moved back in December. I got pregnant in January, and Bailey, my first daughter, was born in November. So it was and I was 19.
A quick transition to life as a housewife in Parsons, Kansas, huh? And
well, I was never really good at being a housewife. I never wanted to be one. My mom is very religious, and so I grew up in a Pentecostal household. Church, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday nights, church camp, VBS.
Your whole life is church,
Yeah. So when I told my mom that I was pregnant at 19, the first question out of her mouth was, "When are you getting married?"
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so it was just sort of an expectation that Jake and I get married. And we did. We got married when Bailey was, I don't know, I think she was about 7 months old, but I did not want to get married. I didn't at all.
Didn't feel right.
I cried on my wedding day.
Yeah.
I didn't plan my wedding. It was an expectation that I had to fulfill.
Right.
And
you were kind of meeting what your relatives wanted you to be or whatever. Yeah. The pressures around you.
Yeah. Lori, it's looking back, I mean, I don't regret it, because Jake and I had some really great years. I got 2 daughters,
right. Exactly.
That are,
they're awesome. They look like they're so cool. I think they do. They're just like my son, like just their own individual people. It's cool. It's cool to see.
They create their own challenges, but my life is better because of them, for sure. So.
Yeah. All right. So you're in Parsons and you're starting a family, and then something changed to cause you to want to get your degree at WSU at that point, right?
Yeah. So I was working at this laboratory, Cytocheck laboratory, where we processed 400 to 500 Pap smears every day.
Fun.
It was a pretty interesting job. Yeah. So they would come in from all over the United States, and we would process them, and we would get them to the pathologist and all of the techs to read the PAPs. And it was just a kind of a cool job, just working in a lab. But I just wasn't very happy doing what I was doing. And so I wanted to go to school. I had every intention to graduate from college. I just kind of got sidetracked a little bit.
Sure.
And so I busted my ass and got a degree, an associate's degree, really quickly. I took 19, 21 hours a semester.
Yeah, that is extreme.
It was crazy. Plus, I had a little kid, and I was working full time, so it was pretty intense. But it was community college, so I got that done. And then it was like, do I go to Pitt State, because that was 30 minutes down the road in Pittsburgh, Kansas, or do we move? Because Jake and I were kind of on the brink of divorce, and it was like, I need to get out of town, or, we need to, I don't know. It was just, Lori, that's where the pressures of small town come in. Everybody knows your business. And
Yeah, if you say one thing, that gets around the whole town or whatever.
Or you do, yeah. I mean,
a bad lesson in telephone.
right. Well, so we came out to WSU, and I just fell in love with the campus. I really liked the setting.
It's cool. Mm-hmm.
I toured the Elliott School, and everybody was really incredible there. And I don't know, it was just like, let's make this work. And so we came out to Wichita. We had like one day to find a place. Mm-hmm. And of course, we had like no budget. Like we were broke, no money. So we came out here and we looked at some those duplexes on Ridge Road, like Ridge and Central. And I walked in to one apartment, which we were coming from 10 acres of land. We were coming from a fancy double wide trailer.
A lot of space though, like outdoors and stuff.
So we walked into this place and it was in our budget, like $400 a month was our budget. And we walked into this place and it was like somebody just chain smoked.
Oh no. The yellow.
Yeah. And I remember looking at Jake and saying, I'm just going to commute to Pitt State. I am not moving and living in this hellhole. Like I'm not doing it. So it was really funny because on the way into town, I found this, we called it the trailer park manager's house because it was a house on the edge of a trailer park. And so, and we drove by it and Jake was like, I'm not living there. I'm not living there. And I said, well, so then we drove clear out to Ridge, looked at that apartment. I think we looked at one other house, like on Topeka.
Oh, wow. Like,
like north to, or south Topeka.
Oh, wow.
I was like, these are not, I'm not living in these places.
These $400 places are not the places I'm living in. After living in the country in a small town. Yeah, it's shady. Those are all shady locations.
So, well, and we didn't know any better because we didn't know Wichita. So, I said, Jake, let's just go look at that place. And so we drove back and it was on Zelta and, Zelta and Greenwich.
Okay.
So way east. And we both walked in and we looked at each other and we were like, okay, this is it. You know,
we can do this.
We can do this.
Yeah.
$400. Our landlord was great. There was a lady who lived in the trailer right next to us who ended up watching Bailey every once in a while for us.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. So, and the people across the street, they had a pool and like, we didn't really talk to them all that much, but it was just like a nice
little area. Like a neighborhood that cared about each other, which doesn't happen all the time. So that's cool.
Well, so, I mean, it worked out for us. And then about and then I finished my bachelor's degree, which was kind of tough because, I mean, I actually worked at Wichita Public Schools at AMAC.
Oh, really?
That was one of my first jobs. Yeah.
Like in HR or something?
No, I worked in the marketing department.
Oh, okay.
I got an internship there.
Sure. They do that still through WSU.
Yeah. So I got an internship in the marketing department and I was really it was a blessing because as an intern, I got to go around to all the schools for their activities, shoot pictures, and then write stories of what they were doing in their school. I really got to learn the city because there's so many schools in the city.
Oh, yeah, there are. Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to find some of them even. I've worked for the school district a lot of years, starting from being a janitor after college, like I'd go to college a little bit and then go be a janitor in the evening and then all the way to where I am now, which is in purchasing. So
nice.
Like for lots of years, but I still run into schools that I didn't know exactly where they were. Like I've written their name 100 times, but never actually seen them and see them and think, oh, cool. I would have never found this. It's in a neighborhood.
Some of them are tucked back.
Yeah, crazy. So anyway,
I really liked working there, and now, what I'm doing, I got to develop a relationship with Wendy Johnson, who is
Yeah,
still
she's
there.
so cool. I just love her.
Yeah, I do too.
She's smart and aggressive, and I love it,
Yep.
Yep.
She's a no bullshit kind of person, which
And
is my kind of person.
That's my kind of person too. I like it when, if you tell me something is going to happen, I know, by God, come hell or high water, it's going to happen. Like, I love that. I can get behind that 100%.
Yep.
So definitely. So anyway, okay, you did a year of intern, or a half a year intern with the Wichita Public Schools, which is awesome. And during your graduating, and then once you graduated, where did that take you into politics?
Yeah. So I had another internship. I worked for United Way. I actually was on the air at Power 93.9 as the midday DJ.
Okay.
I did a couple more jobs when I was in college, which helped me build my resume. So right out of college, I got a job working at ear care hearing aid centers. And Jesse Hidalgo, who's the owner, he calls me up and he's like, I saw your resume and I want to hire you for $28,000. And I was like, $28,000? Oh my God, I'm rich.
Awesome.
Sure.
So I don't have to worry about something anymore.
Yeah.
My phone bill. I'm going to get the iPhone.
Yeah, looking back, it's so silly, but
times change.
So I worked for ear care for 3 years, and I did marketing and advertising for them. So we had 15 ear care hearing aid centers in 2 different states. We were here in Oklahoma. And really, I made postcards. I did a bunch of direct mail. Updating a little bit of the websites. There was me and another guy, Alan, who did this. And so I worked there for 3 years, and then I was just kind of, and during that time I had Nova. She was born during that time. And then I started working for Legend Senior Living. I got a job, and I started out there at, I believe, $32,000. So I was like moving up.
Yeah. Scratching and clawing.
Yeah. And at Legend, I completely changed their marketing department. They were, so senior living is a very large industry, but there's only a few players who really kind of hold the cards. So there's, you have all these investment groups that buy properties, and then you have people who manage the properties. Well, Legend Senior Living was designed and built and created by Tim Buchanan, who is still doing it to this day. He really kind of revolutionized assisted living. So nursing homes of years past, long hallways, tile floors, fluorescent lights. Well, he, with help of others, really sort of changed the landscape. And so he has assisted living, independent living, and memory care. And so I would work with the sales directors who were in the buildings to market to potential customers and families to come in to, move into their property. So I would do that kind of stuff. And I really, really liked doing that. When I really changed how they were ordering things. Like they were on paper. They would just submit a paper, like Word document. And I was like, oh my God, no. So I changed everything to digital.
That's good.
And we used a form, and they would submit it. And then
it's very trackable.
Yeah. So I got to hire a couple of people there. We grew that marketing department. And then the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, Matthew Thornton, parted ways with Legend Senior Living. And so he started working for a company out of Baltimore. And so he calls me up and he's like, Lacey, I need you to brand a company. And I was like,
Brand.
what? What? And he's like, I'll pay you $70,000 and you can do it from your home.
Oh,
now, mind you,
shoot.
I was making like, I had gotten up to like $30,000 or $42,000 by this time.
Right.
And
right.
so
You're doing pretty good, you know.
yeah.
But 70,
So,
that's a whole new, you know, ball game there.
yeah. So I said, of course, I can work from my home and you're going to give me a $30,000 raise. Okay. But Lori, I was really nervous because I had never branded a company before.
Right, right.
You know, like
what all does that entail and having to,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did a bunch of collateral pieces. I designed a bunch of stuff for, you know, like their brochures and their flyers and like posters for their walls and, you know, in their properties.
Right.
But so we went through this rebrand process. I flew out to Baltimore. There were 4 other people on the team. So a couple sales directors on the assisted living side. And then there were a couple of sales people from the skilled nursing side, because they were kind of separate.
Okay.
And we sat in a room for 2 days and we threw a bunch of stuff on the wall, like names. And, you know, we came up with 3 different names. And then I flew back to Kansas, put together a big presentation, flew back out to Baltimore, like, I don't know, a couple weeks later, and presented it to this board of directors. And these guys, Capital Funding Group in Baltimore, they drive Maseratis, fly to Italy on the weekends. I mean, these guys are really wealthy. And here I am, you know, little branding lady from Kansas. Like,
kind of intimidating. Were they?
Oh my God. Yes. So I bought myself, like, I think it was like a $70 dress. I mean, which was really expensive for me.
Right.
So it was
these guys are probably wearing Brooks Brothers suits and
Yeah.
Dang,
but
man.
I bought myself this like black dress. I
power dress.
Yeah. I put together this presentation and I gave each of my counterparts a portion to present, right? So that we presented as a team. But I'm the one who kind of did it all. And I'm walking. I mean, I don't know. It was just something about that day. And I walked into the room and I'm like walking around the table. I'm picking up people's cell phones. And I'm just like, I'm presenting, you know, this pitch. I'm pitching this new brand to this board of directors, and they loved it.
Awesome.
And I walked out with another $30,000 raise.
Awesome. Go girl. That's so inspiring. That's almost more inspiring than I can imagine right now. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a really great opportunity. And so after the name was selected, that's when all the work started. And I had to hire a team of people. I hired 4 people, and we all did it remotely from here. We built websites, we built collateral materials. We rebranded 72 properties in 17 states.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I got to fly all over. I mean, all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast, from north to south. I mean, I was all over the country for about 2 years. That was just a really great time. And then we did such a great job branding this company that they merged with Milestone Retirement Communities in Washington State. And so slowly each one of my team members was let go because they were merging with this bigger company who had a full marketing department.
Yeah. Okay.
And so right around my home. So, and during all this time, you know, I'm trying to hang on to a marriage that was crumbling. My daughters are, you know, growing up. Right. And so Jake and we just couldn't hang on. And I don't know if it was just, there was a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, anybody who's ever been divorced knows that it takes two people for sure.
Yeah.
So
Lives change. Things change.
yeah. But anyway, we ended up getting divorced. I let him have the house because, you know, I was making a ton of money and I knew that I could create another house for my daughters.
Right.
At least I could control the one that I couldn't really control, but I knew where they were at in this house.
Right.
Well, Jake kind of lost his mind and
yeah, that happens, especially during divorces.
But he wasn't making the payments on the house, and so I had to take the house back because he wouldn't get my name off the mortgage.
Right.
Yeah. So I took back the house. You know, this is where my story kind of gets really personal. And all throughout my childhood, you know, I've really been vastly independent. My parents divorced when I was 4. My dad was an alcoholic. You know, he hit my mom once. She divorced him. And then she took my 2 older brothers and moved to Topeka and left me with my dad.
Whoa.
And so, yeah, and then he married this like Coke dealer lady.
Right. Yeah.
And then it was just like all this shit happened. Well,
in Parsons, so in a little town. So you guys were like the talk of the town as well, probably.
Probably not. I mean, I don't know. I don't think so.
You're too little to care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I tell you all of that because I think it's an interesting. So Jake and I've always had this sort of like, because my dad was an alcoholic, like I've always really been cognizant of people and their addictions and things like that. And it's always just been top of mind for me. Right. My dad also, and this is sort of getting off topic, but I swear it will come back to Jake. So my dad was really suffering in his life because his dad died by suicide, and my uncle, my dad's brother, his youngest brother, died by suicide. And so I wonder if maybe that had something to do with my dad's alcoholism and my dad's drug use. But so I've always really been cautious of that and understanding, you know, how people cope or don't cope. Or the things that happen in their lives that make them act a certain way. And so when Jake and I divorced, he developed some sort of addiction. And I think that's why he just couldn't get his shit together. And Jake is a great person. And I think that addictions are horrible and can affect anyone, right? I mean, you can be rich, poor, white, black, whatever. I mean, it doesn't care. It doesn't matter. And he really suffered, I think it was meth or something like that. But anyway, he met this woman on Craigslist who turned out to be one of Sedgwick County's top 10 most wanted people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, lucky him.
Yeah. Well,
that's kind of scary that they're fishing on Craigslist, though, if you think about it. You know, like the top 10 people, they're getting people off of Craigslist, you know.
Lori, that's exactly right. That's what this woman would do. She is known for
it's kind of like fishing for people. Fishing for
well, and the reason why I know this, I'm not just speculating, like she has a history of finding men who to prey on. Right. You know, just like men find women to prey on, women find men to prey on.
They sure do.
Well, and you know, I don't want to put it just all on her because he had to make a decision too. So yeah, I mean, and so when I moved back into the house, so he lived in this house for, I don't know, at least a year, I think, when we were transitioning. And so then when I moved back into this house, About 8 months later, my house was robbed.
Oh.
And I had 3 guitars stolen. My computer was stolen.
Yeah,
she went through my whole closet, stole my TV. Like, she just ransacked my whole house.
Oh man, that sucks.
And I figured it out because my neighbors next door had a camera.
Oh, good.
And the crazy thing is a month before she actually robbed my house, she came to my door.
Oh, okay.
Knocked on my door, and I was home.
She was checking the scene out, checking it out.
Well, I think that she was going to rob me that day. But
if you wouldn't have been home, she would have robbed you that day. Okay. Yeah. Was he with her when?
No.
Okay.
And I don't believe, and I know he had nothing to do with the actual robbery.
Right.
It was a situation like he brought her into the house. She knew the layout of the house because they had other business before, and then they ceased their relationship, right? Because I do believe that he had nothing to do with it. Jake is not that kind of person,
right?
That's
good, at least. But it's still scary to have somebody in your house that you don't know those people, and they're stealing your shit and whatnot, so anyway. I hate that.
Well, so like that happened on April 20th of 2016. And my birthday is April 28th. So I flew out to Oregon and had a pretty good time. Well, then May 12th rolls around and my company lets me go.
Oh, man.
So.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It was just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
But I was pretty financially smart, and I saved quite a bit of money. And so I was able to do like odds and ends. After I was robbed, I did what any normal person would do, and I completely ripped up my whole basement.
Is that where they came through the basement or something?
No, I just had this old 1970s bar that had like this pleather.
Oh, okay. You just needed a change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a lot of time on my hands. Yeah. So I thought, why not just out with the old, in with the new.
Right. This new living area for us.
Yeah. Which I never even go down in my basement now.
Uh-oh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I did some odds and ends. I remodeled my basement. Like I tiled the floor myself, 600 square feet.
Cool. So you're pretty handy then.
Yeah.
Handy. That's good.
Yeah.
I like
to do this kind of stuff. Although I don't really like to do it, but I like it when it's done. I like that I can do it myself, so I don't have to pay somebody to do it.
Yeah, that's true. And you know how it's done. So if you ever have to do it again, it always takes a long time though, because when you don't do it for a living, you have to do it like the slowest and hardest way for at least half of the project before you realize something, or somebody tells you some step that you like, oh man, I'm going to Home Depot and getting that tool. And then your life's easier from there on out. But
well, and right now I'm ripping up my kitchen.
Yeah. How's that going? The kitchen is the hardest because you live in, you have to eat and that kind of stuff.
It's coming along. I have some really great help, so I'm not doing it completely by myself. But just like yesterday, we're trying to get the microwave out, and it just like lifts up and comes out. We were like, it was
every which way but the right way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got off track, but what I wanted to do is, you're almost there where you get into politics part. So like what?
I'm almost there.
What was so you had the time on your hands and you're working on your basement and you're thinking, well, that's one thing about working on any project that's just kind of mundane, is that you're sitting there in your brain processing whatever in your life, and you come up with ideas and solutions and things like that. So was that where, hey, I need to do something, I need to step up, or was that more sign of the times kind of thing where you got.
Well, it really kind of happened organically because I ended up getting a job at Georgetown, which is an independent assisted living residence, and I was the sales director there.
Okay.
So
like Harry Hines or something like that, right?
No, it was Ascension Via Christi has a bunch of different skilled nursing assisted living residences. And so I worked at Georgetown, and somebody calls me up out of the blue. Just this random guy that I met, like at an open jam one night. He plays the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
His name is John, and he actually was like dating somebody. He was dating Adrian Dahl, who was an original organizer of the Women's March here in town.
Okay.
So Adrian Dahl was dating this guy named John, whom I met at a jam because I'm a musician. He's a musician. Well, Adrian was asked John, and she said, "Do you know any women who might sing at the Women's March?" Right. So she calls me up and she's like, "Do you want to sing I Am Woman by Helen Reddy and Respect by Aretha Franklin?"
Whoa, heavy.
And I was like, well, those are pretty big songs, but
here's the
sure.
Yeah.
I said, sure. Yeah. I'd never played them before in my life. So I ended up learning these two songs, a couple more songs as well. And the day of the march comes. I'm completely underdressed. It was really cold. I was wearing this little stupid like jean jacket. I'm freezing cold. I'm out there with my guitar. There's 4,000 people. That was the big march, right? After Trump got elected in 2007, January 2017.
It was after his inauguration. There was a huge women's march. It's that one. It's
that one. That one. The very first one that happened.
The big one with the pink hats. With the pink.
Yes.
Yes. I remember.
So they, the organizers, I was just expecting to like play some songs.
Right.
Well, they got all the people there, right? Everybody was there, and they didn't really have an MC. So they didn't really have anybody to like transition between speakers and, keep the crowd going, that kind of thing.
Sure, so, you need that. Totally.
Yeah, I just kind of did it. I don't know.
On the fly, you just kind of did it?
I was just like, hey.
You pulled a Wendy Johnson.
Yes. Yeah, I did. And so it was like kind of the Red Sea parted. And so I walked through the crowd, and then the banner came behind me. And like we marched to City Hall.
Oh, cool.
Well, then when we got to City Hall, they, like I said, they didn't really have anybody to intro the speakers. And so I'm like, okay, who's next? And I would go up there and I would try to introduce them as best I could. Some people I knew, some people I didn't.
Right.
And, so each speaker like said their thing. I sang my songs. There was this older guy who kind of was on our side, but he seemed like he wasn't. So I had to diffuse that situation. It was like, oh God, so much going on. And all the while, Lori, I'm freezing my ass off.
So you're just trying to keep from hypothermia.
Yeah. So, but here's the sad thing. Like after that march happened, it was like everybody was so excited and there was so much energy, and we were all jazzed and we were ready to march and we were ready to do something. But the next day, Sunday, Monday, the next week, it was like literally someone just popped the balloon and everything just kind of fizzled.
Right.
Right. I mean,
all the energy got sucked out of the room.
Yeah. People just, well, at least for me anyway.
Yeah.
I went back to my daily life, my daily routine. I was scouted for a hospice position. I ended up working for Kindred Hospice.
Okay.
And because it was a little bit more money and it was a lot more flexible. And so I took that position, but then I was just really, I hated it. I did not like it. I wasn't good at the job. And the reason why I didn't like it was because I just feel a lot. Like I feel really like I take on a lot.
You have good empathy skills.
I just do.
Yeah.
And
I do too. I feel things from people. Just usually it's like, oh, sympathy. Like I want to help you, but I can't, and that sucks. And I'm here for you. That kind of, I just like a movie will make you think about something too hard.
It's tough, huh? I mean, just having, I don't know. It's just like you absorb all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, when you're talking about death all day long, and it was too much.
It was draining for you.
Yeah.
Too draining.
And so then year 2 of the Women's March came around, and they asked me to be the MC this year, that year. And so while I was up there with my daughter, introducing all these women, we had our Hear Our Voice sign. And it was just like something clicked in me that, I could do more than what I was doing. And how could I really use my voice to be, to elevate those whose voices aren't heard.
Right. Which I think you've done such a great job of that. Like a really, really great job of keeping focused on a issue or issues and what's really important, because you'll get all these distracting commentary coming at you, and you stay focused. And I think that's a really admirable quality in a person in general, but a woman saying these things is even more important to me right now.
Well, I thank you for saying that. I think there is an expectation of the things that we're going to focus on or how we're going to address certain situations. And we have to break that expectation. I mean, there are so many things that have not been addressed, or, the funds. I mean, as a commissioner, I have the ability to influence how money gets spent.
Right.
And that to me is important, because when you have resources behind things that need resources,
right.
When you have a health department that needs resources, right? When you have a healthy babies program that needs resources, like these are real life programs that affect real people who have no other options.
Right.
You have to keep that at the forefront, right? I mean,
definitely.
And that's really important to me. And so, as I'm standing up there with my daughter in front of, 1,000 people in front of me, I just thought to myself, I can do more. And so I had all of the organizers over to my house from that Women's March. And I tell this story all the time. I made a big pot of taco soup. Mm-hmm. It's cheap. It lasts for days. It's delicious. Anyway, feeds a lot of people,
Right.
And I bought like a box of cheap wine. And so I'm like, I'm having a good time, right? I'm eating my chili or my soup, my taco soup that goes real great with wine, by the way.
Yeah. Having a come together meeting with your group.
Yeah. So then I'm drinking my wine, and I've had like 4 glasses because I'm like having a good time. And I'm like, I think I'm gonna run for governor. And Amber, this woman named Amber, she says, they're all like, whoa, hold up, kind of a big step.
Kind of huge, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Amber calls me a couple days later, and she's like, so how soon are you thinking about running for office?
Right.
And I'm just like, well, I was joking, right? I was
a little tipsy.
Yeah. Like me run for office? What? I mean, I don't even know what office I would run for. Like, I don't even know what these people do. I don't know I know now, but at the time, I did not know what a state rep did. I did not know what a state senator did. I didn't even know the difference between state and federal elected offices. Like, I really did not know.
Right.
And
most people don't, by the way, You
Right.
kind of, you have to research to find out those things. It's just not on a information
So
booklet.
no, it's not. And I think if you don't pay attention or if you don't try to learn it, then you just go about your daily lives. You do whatever you do. You vote in presidential elections, which is what I did.
Mhm.
And it is what it is. And so someone mentioned commissioner. I sat down at my computer one night and I just did a little research on the Sedgwick County Commission because I didn't even know that office existed.
Right.
And I made a spreadsheet. I went on the website. It goes back to all the way to 1953. And so I made a spreadsheet of all commissioners because as I was scrolling, like I'm sitting here with my mouse and I'm like scrolling. And I didn't see any women. And I was like, what the hell?
0 women, right? 0 women.
Well, there were 5. There's been 5 women who've sat on the commission before me.
Okay.
And so I made this spreadsheet.
That's only
and it was
5 out of lots,
Yeah. Well, here's the men and here's the women, right? So the difference was crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so I said, without even really knowing what the hell they did, I was like, that's the position I'm going to run for.
Right.
And so that was in February when I sort of made, like, I was doing all my discovery. Well, then April rolls around and the whole month of April, I was like, yes, I'm going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. Yes, no, yes, no. And I was nervous and I was scared and I was afraid.
Afraid of losing?
Afraid of raising money, afraid of people not taking me seriously, afraid of being able to do the job, afraid of the scrutiny, afraid of it all, afraid of like
the smear campaign and that kind of thing. And
afraid of like keeping my day job plus running for office plus, being a mom. So
exposing your family to the nastiness involved in this. Especially since Trump, I think it's just been a lot more divisive and nasty and below the belt. So, like the lady in the mayor of Dodge City that just quit because she was being harassed.
Oh, see, I haven't even heard that because I've been so knee deep in my kitchen.
There was the mayor of Dodge City got threatened because she did a mask mandate. And she got her life threatened, and her husband and her were like, forget this. And they left. They left town. They moved to Lawrence, Kansas. Wow. Yeah. Like wild. Anyhow.
Yeah. I haven't received any threats.
That's good.
But
Brandon did, I think.
Yeah.
But, he's the mayor. So that's
right.
It's the most crap, I think.
I do get a lot of hate emails, but I get a lot of good ones too.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
Just take the good and forget about the bad, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm running you a little long here, but I wanted to ask you how you got into the music. Like, when did that start? As a little kid or?
So my mom is a musician. She plays lots and lots of instruments. I mean, all throughout my childhood, there was
at the Pentecostal. Is that what? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense because they do have big bands and stuff.
Yeah, usually. I think we kind of started out in a Methodist church, and then we moved to a Foursquare church, which was a Pentecostal church, but it wasn't like crazy musician Pentecostal.
No, because I was raised Catholic, but I've kind of seen a few. I have some Pentecostal people in my family, and I've been to like funerals, and it's a lot different than a Catholic funeral. Let's just say.
Well, she taught piano lessons, and so there were kids in and out of my house, with piano. I didn't really want to learn the piano just because my mom taught it, and I didn't really want to learn it. So, but in 4th grade, Margaret Myers was an orchestra teacher, and all the girls wanted to play the violin, and I was like, I want to play the cello, and so I learned how to play the cello. I studied the Suzuki method, and I had, I took private lessons with Norma Jean Seton. I loved her. And then when I got into middle school, I played 1 year in orchestra, and then in 7th grade, I met Jim Kendall, which was the choral director. He was so inspiring. He was so great. He threw me in the alto section, and I just fell in love with singing.
Okay.
And I'd been singing, since I was little,
Right.
but to really pay attention to, reading music and, understanding harmonies and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I loved singing. So I started studying with Dana Saliba, actually was a voice teacher in Parsons.
Okay.
So I studied with her for a little while. And
you've always been playing all your life?
Yeah. I mean, I played the cello at 4th grade, and then I kind of gave that up, and then I just studied the voice. And then when I was in my early 20s, my mom had a classical guitar, and so I just picked it up, and I just taught myself how to play. I mean, I'm a chord player at best.
Me too. At best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I see you play.
I just didn't, nobody wants to listen to, unless you're into a cappella music, people really don't like to sit and listen to somebody sing a cappella for 45 minutes. So I just learned how to play so I could accompany myself.
Yeah.
But yeah. You
can do it on your own that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So, on this show, when we're ending, we talk about a story of inspiration. And so I was wondering if maybe you had a story of inspiration or something that inspired you or that you use to help other people be inspired, that you could tell us all or share with us all.
Well, I think, and I have in my office, I have Gloria Steinem. I have Joni Mitchell. I have RBG on my wall. And what really inspires me is those stories of the women's movement from the 70s and that revolution, because my daughter actually just bought me a book about what women wear and how they work and what the clothes that they wear. And I think that women throughout history have been so heavily regulated, right? From the things that we can wear to the makeup on our face to, I don't know, have you seen The Queen's Gambit?
I have. It's great.
So, that scene where she's vacuuming and her husband comes home early and she runs upstairs to put on different clothes, right? Because women, you can't, women have to be a certain way. And so,
and don't really ask too many questions when he gets home and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Ugh. Anyway,
just the real inspiration for me is all of the women who don't conform to those social norms that have been thrust upon us. We have the ability to do all of the same things that men do. And I think just trying to break down those barriers and look at things in a different way and be bold enough and brave enough to be able to do that. And I think those women that I mentioned are absolutely, they paved the way, right? I mean, obviously there's women that came way before them.
Sure.
I mean, women have been
doing this forever.
Yes. And to know that in the in the scheme of things, that each of us has a responsibility to keep paving that road. Because when you look at a federal office, when you look at the statistics that are of all federal offices, only 23% of all electorate in federal offices are women. Well, it's taken us 100 years to get to 23%.
Right.
And I don't want it to take another 100 years for us to get to the 50% that we're entitled to. We're 50% of the population. We should be represented. And we can break it down even further by race, right? And ethnicity, which is even way lower as far as equality goes.
And we really can.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand, and I'm really starting to learn, really learn the privilege that I have, because I am very, very privileged as a white woman in this world. I am very, very privileged, and I have to understand how I can use that to start conversations or to keep conversations going, as you mentioned, so that everybody gets their fair share. We're not trying to say that we want to be, better or more or anything. We just want the same. We want an equal playing field. And that's what I try to do.
All right. Well, that is inspiring. And I wanted to say thank you for all your hard work, Lacey. And it's not just going to nothing, because you really are inspiring a community to do more for themselves and be a little more vocal and a little more educated when it comes to these policies that are on the table for all of us. And just that we appreciate, just every day you fighting for what's right. And that's important. So thanks for coming on the podcast and catching a pocket with me.
Sure. Well, thank you, Lori, for having me. I appreciate you keeping this conversation going. And I look forward to listening to other podcasts.
All right. And I appreciate you.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lacey, for being a part of the podcast. This episode of the Catch a Pocket podcast is written, produced, and edited by me, Lori Burris. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and anywhere you can find a podcast. Also, don't forget about Podbean, our host. Podbean is podcast. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend, hit the bell, swipe right, whatever, about this podcast. And thank you for listening. Have a great February. See you next time.